Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave, and after a few weeks off traveling the world, I'm back to talk about SEI, Simple Easy Investing. Now the last time I updated this video was 1 year ago, and I want to see if these principles are still holding true, if this is still working. So for the last year I've been investing $150 every single week. I want to see how this is performing. Now this is the low stress version, automatic investing that most people should be doing. So we're going to talk about it. Now, when I talk about low stress, we're saying this is the Jack Johnson meets Bob Ross to help Fred Rogers babysit bunny rabbits at a Jim Neighbors concert.
Golly.
It's very simple. There's no reason to stress. I haven't been stressed. And yet the portfolio is doing pretty well. So let's talk simple, easy investing. If that is what you're looking for, please stick around. Boop. So I'm sure you're curious, where did Dave go on his couple weeks off? Well, I went on a big trip with the family, went to Athens, Greece. We visited lots of cool places, ate great food, met wonderful people, really nice people over there, and also visited Istanbul and some other places, so lots of fun. Now, nobody here checked up on me. I'm still getting over that. But I got fatter, and I found out that Greek wine, like American wine, gets me drunk. So, good times. And I know you're not here to listen to me blab about my trip to Greece. You're here to learn about finance stuff. So how does this all tie in? Well, despite me being in Greece, I continue to auto invest every single week into simple, easy investing, putting $150 into this account every single week. I don't care who the president is. I don't care what we're doing with tariffs. I don't care what's happening in the Middle East. I'm going to continue this pattern of investing, dollar cost averaging, into simple index funds. And how do I know that it works, or why do I have faith that it works? Well, because this is a repeat process for myself. So this particular account I started about 3.5 years ago. I was probably 49, 50 years old. I'm 53 now, and I'm repeating the same process that I did way back in the day when I was 25 years old. And I see the value of that account now. So again, I'm illustrating to other people that you can still do this to this day. Now back then it was probably more mutual funds and some individual stocks, but I've gravitated towards index funds. And it's very simple, and you can be very broad-based, and you can invest in the United States, and you can invest outside the United States. And it's wonderful and very simple. Again, we come back to simple, easy investing. Now for this particular portfolio build, I'm using M1 Finance. You don't have to use that. I also use Fidelity and E-Trade, so I'm not trying to sell you on anything. But I think M1 Finance does a great job of teaching basic principles when it comes to investing. So when you set up your account there, they're going to have you set up a pie with your maybe 4 or 5 different ETFs that you want to start with. Every time you invest, it's going to manage that pie for you. So if you say I want 20% in this ETF, it's going to target that, and it's going to add the proper amount to maintain that 20%. So it kind of auto balances your portfolio as you continue to invest into it. It also sends you alerts and things like that that I think are very motivational. So a great way to get started. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check out M1 Finance. So here's my account. This is audaciously titled Simple Millions, and it's only worth $26,000. So I've got a long way to go. And for those out there that are like, I'm a little concerned, Dave, you're a little bit older and you're only sitting on $26,000. Well, this is just one example account showing people how it can be done. I have other accounts that I started when I was very young. And I'm happy to report that if I wanted to retire today, I certainly could at age 53. So I've had a lot of good fortune in my life, and I started this process when I was very young. So again, this is my illustration to show other people that it's okay. We don't have to worry about everything that's going on in the world right now. We can do simple, easy investing and have success. So this one was started about 3.5 years ago, and I started it out by seeding about $1,000, exactly $1,000, and putting in $100 every single week for the first couple of years. Okay, and you can kind of see you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting at that point, right? Growing this account early on by putting most of the money in there. But over time, you can start to see we start getting benefit from having a larger account and having growth within that account. So I'm up to $26,000 now, and we've had a pretty good market over the last 3.5 years, haven't we? We haven't had any huge declines. We did have a significant pullback earlier in the year with all the tariffs and everything going on. So in that first quarter, but I continued to buy $150 every single week. So that was a good thing for me. right? Because I still have time to invest. I'm going to continue this process. If you're young, those are the best things that can happen for you. Now, it can be scary at that time, but you'll benefit over the long run. So we recovered a lot quicker than I expected too. So we've recovered, we continue to climb higher, and I continue to invest. So a year ago, when I did that last video, this is an update. I'll link that video up above if you want to go watch that and see where it was sitting last year, but it was around 16,300 at that time. Now it's up to 26,000. I put in around $7,800 because $150 every single week. So the rest of that, about $2,000 or a little bit more has been from the growth of the portfolio. And that will continue to snowball. There's this whole snowball effect. So as this account grows, in those years, on average, that we get a 10% return from the stock market, it's going to have a bigger and bigger impact. 10% of $26,000 is $2,600. If we have a 10% gain this year, I'll get the benefit of that growth because I have this much in that account now. When that gets to $100,000, that'll be $10,000. Now, it certainly won't be linear like I just explained, but you're going to have ups and downs, and that's okay. Over the long run, we're looking for that 8 to 10% annualized rate of return maybe from this account. That's what I'm hopeful for, right? Not always going to be that way. You might even have several years together that it doesn't work out that way, but off to a good start in the first 3.5 years. So what is actually in this portfolio? Well, I currently have 9 slices, and I'll show you exactly what we do have in this one. And it doesn't have to be this complicated. I know 9 slices still isn't that complicated, but you could certainly simplify this down to like a 3-fund portfolio, and I'll show you what those would be too if you want to keep it extra simple. But I've branched out a little bit with this over the last few years. So the core of it is VTI. That's the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF that you can buy here in the United States, all about the United States, and that's 30% of this portfolio. So VTI or VOO, you can go with either one. VTI is more broad-based, so if you're going to build something like this and keep it really simple, you can go VTI. If you said, no, I'm just going to buy the S&P 500, VOO, you could certainly replace that instead of having VTI. But with this one, I went with VTI. Next up is XLK, SCHD, and XLV. So I did a video, and I'll link that above, about a 3-fund portfolio that I kind of liked as something alternative to just buying the S&P 500. And that combination was XLK. That's a technology select sector ETF from Spider, XLK. So that's going to give you all the Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Mag 7 kind of stuff in it, and XLK, and that's 14%. I also have 14% of SCHD, which is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. Really popular one. I've got that set at 14%. And XLV, just like XLK, is one of the Spider Healthcare Select Sector ETFs. This one's just for healthcare. I like healthcare, so I got that set at 14%. So this combination could certainly all be rolled up right into your VTI holding and just have one instead of the 4. I just split it out a little bit, and I kind of like this setup. So we'll see how it goes over the years if you compare the two together. Next up, I think an important component these days is, especially with the U.S. and everything that we got going on, is VXUS. So X United States, XUS. So this is Vanguard Total International Stock Market ETF. It's got a ton of stuff in it, and very broad-based outside the United States. So everything else that goes on around the world outside of our shores here in the United States, we've got that set for 13%. I think this is a really important component right now. And this is one of the things that will protect you if something was to happen right here in the United States. So I have that component in there. If I was going to do a 3-fund portfolio, it would still be one of those prongs. So in that case, it would be VTI and VXUS. And then I have some bond holdings. I like having a little bit of exposure to the bond market. So in this case, I'm using BND, which is the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF. Really popular. I've got that set for 6%. I got VTEB, which is just a tax-exempt version, set at 4%. What's your tax situation? Do you want to have that or not have that? That's kind of up to you. Again, you could just put that right back into BND if you didn't want it. Same thing with SPHY, which is the Spider Portfolio High Yield Bond ETF, and I've got that set for 3%. So again, this one can go into BND. This one could go into BND. In that case, all you would have It'd be VTI, VXUS, and BND, and that could be your 3-fund portfolio. Now, I've added one other thing I haven't bought any yet because I just did it while I was making this video, and that's IBIT. So what's your feelings on IBIT? In this case, that's a Bitcoin ETF, right? So, or ETP product. And I just said that for 2%. I don't think you need a ton of that, and you definitely don't have to have it at all, depending on your view of Bitcoin at this point. So I'm going to add that as a small component here and see how that treats my portfolio. But that's it. That's all I have in this portfolio. And again, you could dumb this down to just a 3-fund portfolio if you would want to and keep it extremely simple. So the basics here and why this process works so well is because I'm dollar cost averaging every single week, right? I keep investing into solid low cost index funds and I ride that wave of fun. So did this account panic when tariffs were put on this year? Nope, it did not care. It just kept buying $150 each and every week. Did it try and pick the new hot stock or worry about AI? Nope. More index funds, right? Jim Neighbors would be proud.
Shazam.
Really chill, relaxed, singing. So one of the great things about index investing is it's self-cleansing, right? So God forbid, I've got my Apple phone here. It makes up about 12% of that XLK holding that I've got. So if something were terrible were to happen to Apple and it fell out of grace and we lost that, right? The value of this, and it was replaced by some new hot AI stock making these crazy robots that makes everybody worry about their jobs and stuff like that. That will be replaced. That will come into XLK likely, right? So it's self-cleansing. So yes, I lose the value here, but if I own this individually, that's a big problem. Owning an index, not that big of an issue. I'll lose some value, but the new hot stock, it's going to be added to my index, and it'll pay off handsomely for me down the road. So that's why this process works so well, and I think it will continue to work well into the future. So this has been your annual reminder that simple, easy investing continues to work. You know, you might define yourself as a real estate guy, as an options guy, as a growth investor, or an income investor, but this can still do the job. You can keep it really simple. You can hang out with Bob Ross and do happy little trees, and it can work out really, really well. Then you can go get some sun over there in Athens and eat some of that baklava. So any questions on any of this, please ask down below. I appreciate you watching it, and keep investing. We'll see you soon. Whoop.